Greetings, this is John Baldwin, and today's lesson is going to be Agentsets in NetLogo. We're going to talk about what an agentset is. We're going to discuss how you ask agents that are in an agentset to do something. We're also going to talk about how you can give an agentset a simpler name. Agentset is just a fancy word for a very simple idea. An agentset is a group. It could be a group of turtles that you're going to ask to do things. It could be a group of patches. Later on, it might become a group of links. It could also be a subgroup of a larger group. So you might just want certain turtles to do things, and I'll demonstrate that in a second. Here we have a group of turtles. This is an agentset, an example of an agentset. So I'm going to ask all of these turtles to do something. So there we see they're all wandering around. So I've asked the agentset of turtles to do things. Now, when I ask an agentset to do things, what actually happens inside the code? This is an important consideration because what happens is NetLogo asks each one of the turtles, one at a time, to do all of the things inside an ask turtle command. So in this case, I've asked the turtles to wander around. Each turtle must execute that code and do all of the things that are involved in wandering around. Okay, another question. So I have a group of turtles. Which one is going to do those commands first? Well, in NetLogo, it's important to remember that the order that the turtles execute the commands are randomized. We don't know which turtle is going to go first. And this is an important feature of NetLogo because it causes our models to run a little bit differently each time we run them because we're not sure who does what first. And so that's one of the sources of the randomness in models, and one of the reasons why often to get good results from our models we need to run them many times. Okay, so now we know that an agentset is just a group of turtles. It can also be a group of patches. In fact, the largest patch agentset is the group of all patches. So in this case, when I ask all the patches to set their P color to blue, we notice that all of the patches respond. And like with turtles, patches will respond at in a random order. So I'm going to turn the speed way down so maybe we can see these turning blue in a random order. So you see how the speed is so slow that we can actually now see that they're turning color randomly. So there's the patches turning blue randomly. Okay, now let's talk about subsets or smaller groups of the larger. Suppose in this case I want just the red turtles to do something. There are special commands that allow me to talk to that group of red turtles. And the special command is ask turtles with square bracket color equals red. Here I'm going to ask the red turtles to wander away from the main group. So when I tell them to do that, we see that just that group responds. So to be very clear, the group of all turtles is an agentset, and when we ask that group to do something, every member of that group does it. The group of red turtles is a smaller agentset, and we can ask just that group to do things. So we use the with word. The with is a special command word that allows us to talk to a large group, but filter it according to some criteria, and that's what we put in the square brackets. Let's see how this works. So an example would be to say, as I do here, turtles with color equal red. But I could also put turtles with color equal red and size equal to 2. In a few minutes, we'll build a model program that will allow us to play around with agentsets. We will create agentsets using the with command and a Boolean selector to choose subgroups or smaller groups out of the larger groups of turtles. And we will then give these groups names and ask that group to do things. Okay, for the final part of this lesson, I want to show you how you can take an agentset and give it a friendly name, a name that's easy to remember and descriptive in the code. Now, in order to do this, we're going to peek under the hood in the program that I've made. The first thing you need to do is you need a variable, a place to store the group or the agentset that you're going to create. In this case, I'm using a global variable called red turtles. I'm going to use this red turtles to refer to the agentset or the group of all red turtles. Now remembering, let's look down a little bit further in the code. How do I pick out a group of all turtles? Well, I use that with command that we've been talking about. Turtles with color equal red. And here you can see I'm storing this group in this name. So once we've created an agent set of red turtles, we can ask that agent set to do things, just as if we were asking it in the long-winded way using the with command. So I ask the red turtles to wander away, and they do exactly the same thing. So I now have a button that just asks the red turtles, and we can see that they respond just as well to this command as they did to the former. Just to make these ideas as clear as possible, let me give you an example drawn from real life, something you're familiar with. Think of all the students in your school. That's a pretty large group. If this were a NetLogo, we could call that an agent set. Now, think of the smaller group of students with grade equal to 9. That's a smaller group, and we have a special name for that group. We call that group freshmen. How would you do this in NetLogo? Well, first you would have to create a global variable called freshman, and then you would have to assign the group of students with grade equal to 9 to that group, freshmen. And once you've done that, you'd be able to ask the freshmen to do whatever commands, and those freshmen would, in random order, execute the commands. Okay, it's time to practice. I'd like you to build a little program that will generate a bunch of different agents with different properties, and I'd like you to create some agent sets out of the larger agent sets of all turtles, or in this case, wolves, and just play around with agent sets until you have the hang of it. In this program, we have some global variables that I define right off the bat. Now, you don't worry about why I've named them these. You can name them whatever you like, but I have 3 global variables, one called aliens, one called werewolves, and one called red wolves. I'm also using a breed here, and notice when I make a breed, I set the plural first, and then I just say, what do you call the singular? I have a create procedure where I create not turtles in this case, but I'm creating wolves because I've defined this breed. I can do this, and I'm creating 100 wolves. So all of the agents that I create will be wolves, but they will have different colors. Notice here, when I start to set the properties of these 100 wolves, I set the color to either red, blue, or yellow. I'm using the special oneof command, which just picks one of the values out of the list that follows. I'm using the oneof command again here when I set the size. I'm saying set the size to either 1, 2, or 3. And again, I'm using the oneof command when I set the shape to either a circle, person, or a wolf. Finally, I randomize them with this important command where you set the random x-core and the random y-core so that they're scattered around the screen. As you're building this, you'll want to test frequently. So let's flip to the interface and see if it works so far. When we run setup, sure enough, we create 100 wolves, and they don't all look like wolves. They've got random shapes, random colors, and random sizes. Now this is going to allow us to create agent sets or selections of different groups based on these properties. So let's go back to the code and let's see how we do that. Here I want to talk to just the wolves with the color or with the shape of a circle. And I'm going to use that variable that I created in the globals, and I'm going to say, let's call those guys aliens because they have a shape of a circle. Now there's a group that I like to call werewolves, and they'll be the wolves with the shape of a person and the size equal to 2. So notice how I'm using a Boolean selector to pick out an agent set, and I'm storing that in a more friendly or familiar name. Finally, we do the same thing with red wolves, and those are going to be the wolves that have the shape of a wolf and the color red. So now I've defined these agent sets, and that allows me to use or to build procedures just like this, where I say show werewolves, and I can ask just this group of werewolves that I've defined to set their size to 3 plus 3. Let's see how this works. Go into the interface, I've set up, created some, and now I'm going to show the werewolves so we can see that just that group becomes larger, just those that started out with a size of 2. Okay, now is a good time to pause the program, try to create a program very similar to this one that allows you, that has some global variables, perhaps a breed, create some turtles, set some properties. Use this oneof command. That'll give you some practice with a very useful command. So you can set their colors to a selection and give it a try. Make some agent sets and make some procedures that use those agent sets. And good luck with the exercise. As you play around with the model, I expect that you'll be learning more about how agent sets are really just groups of agents, either turtles, patches, or some breed, that you can give instructions to. I expect that you'll practice asking them using the ask command to do whatever it is you want them to do. And finally, I hope that you will be able to create variables that allow you to give your agent sets friendly names that you will then use in your procedures so that your code becomes more readable.